I think one of the reasons that we were drawn to the idea of the Battle of Franklin is that we are in a region that is so deep in history. I grew up in this region and I've heard about Franklin and the battle and even the Civil War reenactments most of my life. I've been intrigued by it, but I don't think I really understood the relevance or the power that it held. So when we were looking at a way to sort of celebrate our region and celebrate what we call home here, it seemed natural that we would seep into our own stories. I am Matt Logan. I am the designer and director of the Battle of Franklin. I am also the artistic director of Studio Tenn.
Matt Logan, the director, came to me and said, "We've got this play, we need somebody to write it. Would you like to do it?" And I said, gulp, yes I would. And then I went home and panicked, and 30 days later we had the first draft of a play. I am Pete Peterson, the writer of Studio Tenn's The Battle of Franklin. When Matt suggested that we wanted to tell the story of the Carter house, I thought, well, isn't that where June Carter grew up? I really didn't know. I see the signs every time I drive into town, but I had never stopped to pay attention. And so it was an entire revelation to me to discover what an incredible drama had played out on the ground that we walk on all the time. Maybe the most surprising thing is that it happened at all, and most people don't even know about it. It's often called the Gettysburg of the West. It's one of the bloodiest battles of the Civil War, and it's just kind of passed over in a lot of popular Civil War storytelling. It was surprising to discover how much research there is out there that is maybe not published anywhere that you can easily find. I could walk into the Heritage Foundation and talk to Rick Warwick, and he will pull out somebody's will and show it to me and say, hey, look, right here, he talks about this question that you're asking me. And that was fascinating.
The Carter House itself, you see, it was one of the first public houses open to the public in Franklin. But the story itself is really a real human interest story, because here you have a family that was right in the middle of the war. The old man is one of the largest landholders right in the butting up against the city of Franklin. And he was sitting on some prime real estate. It just happened to be the site of the Battle of Franklin in November 30th, 1864. I am Rick Warwick, volunteer historian at the Heritage Foundation.
I think that one of the things that separates theater from history, per se, is the fact that in theater we're trying to focus on the human experience, whereas history just tells us what happened. So I think the lens of theatricality allows an emotional level to storytelling that history doesn't give us.
That night in the cellar, there you are and you can't get out, and you hear all the guns and screaming and horrors of war right outside the window. Citizenry had to come out and try to find and help the living and then bury the dead. It was a horrific battle, and it was fought so close to town, it left a great depression on the town.
The aspect of the Civil War is something that's still with us every day in America. It's not over. And so I think it's important to stop and take a look again and examine the whys and the wherefores, and how can we deal with it properly now. We haven't dealt with it for almost 200 years, and I think it's about time. I'm Matthew CARLTON. I'm playing Fountain Branch Carter in Studio Tenn's Battle of Franklin. He was not an all-out rebel, let's break away from the Union. He was more of a, let's just see what happens. Can I just keep doing what I'm doing? Everything's fine the way it is kind of guy. And that was part of the trouble in his household. He was very satisfied with things as they were. The status quo was where he sat. And so was most of the country. And that's why something had to give.
Well, one of the best pieces of advice I was given is that you approach every revival as if it's a new work, and every new work as if it was Shakespeare. One of my favorite things about theater is that we are always given the chance to have a perspective. With each tale that we tell, I love to sort of turn it just a bit, turn the prism just a bit, and allow the audience a different point of view.
I know from working with Studio Tenn and with Matt several times, he is always so open to creating and exploration. I'm Jennifer Whitcomb-OLIVA, and I'm playing Callie Carter in Studio Tenn's The Battle of Franklin. Callie Carter is the wife of Henry Carter. and they both lived and worked in the Carter household. She's probably the one that is thinking about the bigger picture at all times. She's so smart.
People are not as interested in history these days, and I think that's why we keep making the same mistakes. Our nation has a responsibility that it did not face. We were founded on slavery. We started our declaration with saying that all people are created equal when that was not the case in our country.
The struggles that the African American people were going through at that time, some of those struggles still exist today.
A lot of what was at the heart of the brokenness of our country during the Civil War was people's inability to see other people as human beings. And all you have to do is look around at the news today to see that we're still having those same kind of hang-ups. The Battle of Franklin is still taking place. The actual battle took place in 1864, yes, but 150 years later, we're still dealing with a lot of the exact same prejudices and societal problems. So we wanted to look at ways that we could make that story have something to say about the story that we're still living in today.
It's not a historical reenactment. I think that because it is so relevant to what is happening right now, it's going to at least open the eyes of some people, or they might see something or hear something that strikes a chord with them. I think that it really does make you look at yourself and the battle that you have within yourself as a human being.
Theater always puts human beings in front of human beings. And once you can personalize and humanize the cost and the suffering of what war and rebellion does, I think that can open some eyes up.
The Carter family is a family that is a good example of what the war can do to you and all the glory that you would expect turns out to be tragedy.
I encourage people to come see the show for the same reason I would encourage people to encounter art of any kind. Like, the best kind of art out there is the kind of art that moves us out of our comfort zone and allows us to see something from somebody else's perspective.
From the beginning, my goal with Battle of Franklin has been to find a way to tell history without going backwards. There is a certain frame of mind that we accept when we go backwards. We've got to realize there is a beautiful and poetic way to look back but not be still held back by the things of the past.